Now we're ready to start bringing in our images. We're going to do that with the place command. So let's click on File, Point to Place, and in your Chapter 5 folder, you'll find some images we're going to use. Let's select Gate 1. This will be for the children's cover. And click Place. So Photoshop's bringing in the image. It's a JPEG. And again, whenever we bring in an image, we're going to see our X that gives us the opportunity to change our mind or decide, yes, we're going to keep it. I'm going to press my Return key or my Enter key. And it places it on a new layer. In my Layers panel, it's named after the file name, Gate 1. And you can see here that it is a smart object and it's referencing the original file because of that little thumbnail. So I'm going to go ahead and rasterize the layer by right-clicking on the name of the layer and choosing Rasterize Layer. So I'm embedding my image of the gate into my picture. Okay, let's go ahead and get our next image. Again, File, Place, and let's choose Vine 1. Here's the vine that we're going to use that's going to cover the top of our door and kind of hide it a little bit. So I'm going to click Enter or Return to commit to it. And again, I want to rasterize this as well. So I'm going to right click on the name of the layer and choose Rasterize Layer. And we'll come back to that in a little bit. Okay, and our last one, File, Place. It's called Flowers. And these are the flowers we're going to place at the bottom of the gate to kind of block the walkway. Okay, so these are my 3 images that we're going to work with. Again, let's rasterize the layer for flowers. The names all seem to make sense. We've got Gate 1, Vine 1, and Flowers, and those again are named after the file name that we used to place. Now we've got them all rasterized, and you can also see that the Vine 1 and the Flowers, if you look in the Layers panel, you'll see that they're on a transparent background. So the pictures have already been extracted from their backgrounds. And if you noticed when we were placing them, they were actually Photoshop documents. So if you wanted to go in there and look at the original image and maybe clean it up differently, you're more than welcome to do so. Okay, let's start with the Vine 1 layer. First thing we want to do is actually flip our vine so that it's pointing downward. And then we're going to actually make a duplicate of it and flip it again. So let's choose Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical, and we'll move it towards the top. Now remember, our guides are the edges of our paper where the paper will actually be trimmed down to. So I'm going to come up to the top here, and I can actually put that straight edge along my guide. And I can choose to go past my guide and just remember that's actually where it would be cut. Now I want to duplicate my Vine 1 layer because I don't like the appearance of the vine on the left-hand side. So I actually want to kind of use what I have on the right twice. So I'm going to duplicate my layer. I'm going to right-click on Vine 1, and I'm going to choose Duplicate Layer, and let's call this Vine 2. And now I'm going to choose Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. So now I have a copy of my vine on top of the other vine, but now we can see that I don't really see the vine below it because of that bad area I was trying to cover on the left-hand side is now on the right-hand side. So let's make a mask, and let's get our brush, the letter B on our keyboard, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I want to get rid of some of this area. So I want a black brush. I'm going to press my X on my keyboard to swap my foreground and my background. And now I can just click and drag, and I can start to remove some of that area. Now what's kind of neat about working with a mask is, remember, the black is making a hole in our mask essentially and letting what's below it bleed through, and the white retains what's on that layer, and that's what I see. Now if I use a shade of gray between black and white, we'll go ahead and select a shade of gray and show you what happens. Now when I click and drag, you'll notice it blends the bottom layer with the layer above it. Let me go ahead and zoom in so you can see this better. And go back to my brush. As I'm painting with gray, I'm actually blending the layer below with the layer above. So again, let me reset my colors to black and white, and press the letter D to reset my foreground and my background, the letter X to go to black, and when I click and drag with black, I'm making a hole. And when I paint with white, I'm only seeing what's on top. And now if I change it to a shade of gray between black and white, I'm blending my two images. So I'm not committing to either the top one or the bottom one. I'm actually using both at the same time. Let me change this back to just white up here. And you get a little bit better image there so that it's not so drastic from where we made a hole with the black to where we're having the white. Now here it looks a little bit muddled, so let me get another shade of gray and come in here a little bit more and see if I can't clean that up where it looks more just like a bunch of flowers laying on top of each other. Let me go back to my white over here. And that doesn't look too bad. Let me go ahead and zoom back out. Oops, double click on my hand tool, zoom back out, and that doesn't look too bad. Now obviously I can go back in and I could add other embellishments to my picture to hide some of my problems, or we can see what that looks like in the final print. Okay, so now we've got our Vine 1 and our Vine 2. I'm going to change back to my Move tool. Now, one thing I might want to do in my Layers panel is actually link these two layers together since they are on top of each other and they belong together. So what I can do is select both the Vine 1 and the Vine 2 layers, click on the panel menu for the layers, and what I can do is choose to link these layers. So what that does is we see the little chain link come up here on this panel. Now if I were to select one of the layers, both layers will move together. And I don't have to worry about them coming apart or clicking one and then having to adjust the other one. Okay, let's take a look at the flowers layer. The flowers, I'm going to go ahead and bring those down a little bit. And I want it blocking the door some to create some composition and perspective with my image. But I don't want it too high because of my angle. Now when I bring it down, I still have a hole here at the bottom, and this comes from the removal of some other things that were around this flower bed. There are actually several different colors in the flower bed, and I just wanted to keep the one. Okay, let's go ahead and resize our flowers since we do see a white hole there at the bottom. I'm going to do Control T or Command T, and I'm going to make these a little larger. Now what's nice about Photoshop, it has improved over the years that we can actually resize a photo, and Photoshop will work its magic and the photo won't lose any resolution and it won't become pixelated. So I'm just going to make these taller. I don't need them any wider, I just need them to be taller. So I'm going to resize it. I'm going to press my Return key or my Enter key, and then I'm going to adjust those down so that I can hide that hole. Let me go ahead and zoom in and show you that the quality of the flowers are still pretty good. They haven't become pixelated and they actually look nice now. And now because I've also zoomed in, we can see that the hole is below our cut line. So that's going to be just fine. It's outside our bleed area. Let me double click on my hand tool again to resize my image. And the other thing we might want to do is change the size of our door if we want to make it more prominent versus the walls on the side. So let's go ahead and select Gate 1. Again, I'm going to get my free transform tool, Control T or Command T. And I'm just going to make it a little bit wider to make the door larger and then adjust it back. And maybe take it up a little bit, a little bit taller, so that our vines are going over the top of the door. Again, we want to give the appearance that the door is relatively hidden, but we also want to be able to see the door so that the child in the book has an opportunity to actually find it. And now we're ready to actually move on to adding our title and our author's name.